Professor Pinch, what will you be discussing in your public lecture?
The lecture is going to be about the public understanding of science. It's thinking of science as a benevolent monster. And there are many hackneyed images of science and metaphors for science, such as Frankenstein image of science as a kind of monstrous occupation and activity. And I'm trying to show that the benevolent side of science. So I like to try and think of new ways that the public can understand science. So the lectures are trying to get across my own field, science and technology studies, in a kind of more popular way. So how do we think about science? What are the social, historical and cultural roots of science, which are taught here at Notre Dame but often don't reach the wider audience? So that I see that as an opportunity in my public lecture to do that, and I try and bring in the audience, ask them questions, have lots of illustrations of what I'm doing that they can understand, I hope. I'm talking about a musical technology, the Moog Snythesizer. A lot of people think it's Moog, but he had a little sign on his desk, Moog rhymes with rogue. He's an actual engineer, Robert Moog, who was at Cornell, my own university, developed the electronic music synthesizer in the period 1964 to 1970. And this is kind of the granddaddy of all electronic music synthesizers. Most people have experienced it through keyboards like Casio keyboards in kids' bedrooms. Those are descended from the Moog electronic music synthesizer. And this is an instrument that changed the face of popular music. It was used by the Beatles and the Rolling Stones famously. And kind of synthesized sound today saturates movies, TV shows, and it's on virtually every album. So it's been a very important instrument in the history of music. So I talk a bit about the cultural context which that instrument emerged from, which was the 1960s, how a new instrument very rarely comes along. There are very few new musical instruments that come. You have to go back to the saxophone of 1840 to find another significant instrument before the synthesizer, and talk a bit about its cultural impact. And then I play some music, because most people have heard some of those classic Moog tracks, whether it's Wendy Carlos' Switched on Bach or Here Comes the Sun from George Harrison.